right, this is the third 10-minute reading from the Anarchist Handbook, organized by Michael Malice. Here from Club Seawolf in the high desert of SoCal. We're starting with chapter 3, page 11, a cold reading. So the verbalization may be a little bit less than optimum. But here we go. Chapter 3, Max Stirner, from The Ego and His Own, 1844. Somewhat of a hipster precursor to Nietzsche, you probably haven't heard of him. Max Stirner's idiosyncratic book, Der Einzig und sein Eigentum, was supposedly regarded as too crazy to bother censoring. Stirner died largely forgotten, with the only images left behind of him being a couple of drawings by Marxist comrade-in-arms, Friedrich Engels. His unique, energetic text later inspired egoists and anarchists alike, though not Nietzsche, who apparently never read him. With the opening salvo of, quote, "all things are nothing to me," being a cry of proud rebellion, Stirner's reduction of purportedly morally binding concepts such as duty to mere, quote, spooks, continues to resonate with anarchists today. My power. Right is the spirit of society. If society has a will, this will is simply right. Society exists only through right. But as it endures, only exercising a sovereignty over individuals, right is its sovereign will, all caps. Aristotle says justice is the advantage of society. All existing right is foreign law. Someone makes me out to be in the right, does right by me. But should I therefore be in the right if all the world made me out so? And yet, what else is the right that I obtain in the state, in society, but a right of those foreign to me? When a blockhead makes me out in the right, I grow distrustful of my rightness. I don't like to receive it from him. But even when a wise man makes me out in the right, I nevertheless am not in the right on that account. Whether I am in the right is completely independent of the fool's making me out and of the wise man's. All the same, we have coveted this right until now. We seek for right and turn to the court for that purpose. To what? To a royal, a papal, a popular court, etc.? Can a sultanic court declare another right than that which the Sultan has ordained to be right? Can it make me out in the right if I seek for a right that does not agree with the Sultan's law? Can it, for instance, concede... I lost my place there. I'm reading by candlelight, which is better light than last night, but not a light to read by. Can it, for instance, concede to me high treason as a right, since it is assuredly not a right according to the Sultan's mind? Can it, as a court of censorship, allow me the free utterance of opinion as a right, since the Sultan will hear nothing of this my right? What am I seeking for in this court, then? I am seeking for sultanic right, not my right. I am seeking for foreign right. As long as this foreign right harmonizes with mine, to be sure, I shall find it in the latter too. The state does not permit pitching into each other man to man. It opposes the duel. Even every ordinary appeal to blows, notwithstanding that neither of the fighters calls the police to it, is punished. Except when it is not, and I whacking away at you, but say the head of a family at a child. The family is entitled to this, and in its name the father, I, as ego, am not. The Vossische Zeitung presents to us the, quote, Commonwealth of Right. There, everything is to be decided by the judge and a court. It ranks the Supreme Court of Censorship as a, quote, court where, quote, right is declared. What sort of right? The right of the censorship. To recognize the sentence of that court as right, one must regard the censorship as right. But it is thought nevertheless that this court offers a protection. Yes, protection against an individual censor's error. It protects only the censorship legislator against false interpretation of his will, at the same time making a statue by the, quote, sacred power of right all the firmer against writers. Whether I am in the right or not, there is no judge but myself. Others can judge only whether they endorse my right and whether it exists as right for them too. In the meantime, let us take the matter yet another way. I am to reverence sultanic law in the sultanate, popular law in republics, canon law in Catholic communities. To these laws, I am to subordinate myself. I am to regard them as sacred. A, quote, sense of right and, quote, law-abiding mind of such a sort is so firmly planted in people's heads that the most revolutionary persons of our days want to subject us to a new, quote, sacred law, the, quote, law of society, the law of mankind, the, quote, right of all, and the like. The right of, quote, all is to go before my right. As a right of all, it would indeed be my right among the rest, since I, with the rest, am included in all. But that it is at the same time a right of others, or even of all others, does not move me to its upholding. Not as a right of all will I defend it, but as my right. And then every other may see to it how he shall likewise maintain it for himself. The right of all, for example, to eat is a right of every individual. Let each keep this right unabridged for himself, then all exercise it spontaneously. Let him not care for all, though. Let him not grow zealous for it as for a right of all. But the social reformers preach to us a, quote, law of society. There the individual becomes society's slave and is in the right only when society makes him out in the right, when he lives according to society's statutes and is so loyal. Whether I am loyal under a despotism or in a, quote, society a la Whiteling, it is the same absence of right insofar as in both cases I have not my right but foreign right. In consideration of right, the question is always asked, quote, what or who gives me the right to it? Answer, God, love, reason, nature, humanity, etc. No, only your might, your power gives you the right. Your reason, therefore, may give it to you. Communism, which assumes that men, quote, have equal rights by nature, contradicts its own proposition until it comes to this, that men have no right at all by nature. For it is not willing to recognize, for instance, that parents have, quote, by nature, rights as against their children, or the children as against the parents. It abolishes the family. Nature gives parents, brothers, and so on no rights at all. Altogether, this entire revolutionary or Babavist principle rests on a religious, that is, false view of things. Who can ask after, quote, right, if he does not occupy the religious standpoint himself? Is not, quote, right a religious concept, something sacred? Why equality of rights, as the revolution propounded it, is only another name for Christian equality, the equality of the brethren, of God's children, of Christians. And that's my timer, but I'm just going to finish this next little bit. The equality of the brethren, of God's children, of Christians. In short, fraternity. Each and every inquiry after right deserves to be lashed with Schiller's words. Many a year I've used my nose to smell the onion and the rose. Is there any proof which shows that I have a right to that same nose? And that's it. Ending on page 14, beginning on page 11 tonight. So it looks like we're getting through about 3 pages a night. It's going to be a long series.